Hi, welcome to Moo Moo Math. Today we're going to look at the properties of a rhombus, and I've drawn a little figure up here that looks like a rhombus. We've got D-O-G-S, dogs. There's our rhombus, and a rhombus falls in the quadrilateral family as a parallelogram. So we have quadrilaterals, and then a smaller subgroup of parallelograms, and there are rectangles over here, and then there are rhombuses over here, and these two are not the same. They're two different groups. So let's look at how a rhombus is different than a rectangle. Okay, since a rhombus is a parallelogram, it does have all the properties of a parallelogram. So it's got these opposite sides, OG and DS, and yes, that's an S, and these are congruent, and they're also parallel, and DO and SG are also congruent to each other, and they're also parallel. Now, what sets a rhombus apart is that not only are these opposite sides congruent, top to bottom, left to right, all four congruent. So if this side is 5, this side is 5, this side is 5, this side is 5. I call a rhombus a squished square. Okay, so we have opposite sides that are congruent, opposite angles that are congruent, so OS are also congruent angles, these opposite ones. We have parallel sides, so these opposite sides are parallel to each other. And then we can also look at the angles being supplementary. So D and O are supplementary, those angles are, and O and G are supplementary. Now what sets the rhombus apart, besides these four sides being congruent, it also has a couple properties with the diagonals. Okay, I'm going to draw OS, that diagonal, and DG, that diagonal. Properties is the diagonals are actually perpendicular. So the diagonals cross in the center and make four right angles. Now what's going to happen is O and to the center, let's call that C, and C to S, these two segments are congruent, and then these two segments, D to C, the center, and C to G, those two are congruent. And you can see we actually have four congruent triangles. So these smaller triangles in here are reflections and are actually congruent to each other. So another property is the diagonals actually bisect each other, which just means they cut each other in half, which is these segments are congruent to this, and OC and CS are congruent. So I hope this video has been helpful. I'm going to throw up here, since we're running short on time, all the properties of a rhombus. Has all the properties of a parallelogram. It's also got four congruent sides. The diagonals form right angles at the center, and the diagonals form four congruent triangles that reflect upon each other. Hope this was helpful.